It's June 18th, 2017. You're listening to the Fancy Ramen Podcast. I'm Neil.
I'm Lizzie.
I'm Scott.
I'm Cuki.
This episode, we're going to be talking about E3, the press conferences, and any major games and news. But before that, we've got a couple emails. Who wants to read our first email?
That's the one from Catherine from Lawrence. I'll read this one out because it's calling me out, and rightfully so, I should say. And we're only reading the first part of this email because the second half we'll talk about during our Omake episode over Tokyo Godfathers. It's specific to that, so listeners who don't listen to the Omake won't miss out on any gaming-related content. So Catherine from Lawrence says, I have one bone to pick about your last episode discussing console names. It seems ridiculous to defend Nintendo's naming when they have the DS, 3DS, new 3DS, 3DS XL, new 3DS XL, 2DS, and 2DS XL. Why the literal fuck? And I think she's missing out on a couple others, like the Nintendo DS HD Remix and the Nintendo DS, I believe it's 361 and then 1X, and then I totally understand why I might be in hot water for saying that Nintendo has some reasoning behind their console names. But I will go ahead and defend myself with I said consoles, not mobile consoles. So, yeah, I know it's a terrible caveat, but I think I'm going to take it. I think their console names have been generally reasonable. I will say their portable names, starting from even... What was the Game Boy SP even supposed to be? Like,
wasn't that just a smaller version of... No, that's not right.
The SP was the first flip.
Yeah, it was the flip phone of mobile games.
But it was still just a plain
awesome.
Game Boy, right?
No, yeah, but what does the SP even stand for? So
small pants.
so I think Catherine is 100% correct on this. When it comes to the Game Boy naming conventions and then the later DS, what I think is the spiritual successor to the Game Boy, those follow no sense at all. And it must be horrible for like really generous grandparents who are trying to buy their grandkids some nice new toy and they don't know what the fuck they're buying because it's got like 4 or 5 descriptors to it. And, they go ahead and they buy the original 3DS and their grandkid is just like so depressed because now they're so far behind on the tech.
Do you really think the Wii U is a good name for a console?
Because we play with you. They justify it.
I think that there's reasoning to it, and I'll also argue that Nintendo did a very bad job of distinguishing that the Wii U was a separate console from the Wii, which is partially a naming error or a misnomer of the Wii U. But I don't know, it follows the same basic hardware and concepts as the regular Wii, so Wii U seems reasonable in the same way that it's an iteration of the same basic console that came before it.
I think they tried to pull an Apple, because if you think about when Apple started going with the iPhones and just going with the new iPhone versus the old iPhone of the year, that's all they're doing. With the new 3DS, it's just the new 3DS versus the 3DS.
The difference, though, is that the new iPhone is not actually called the new iPhone. It's just, or like the new MacBook. The new part is only there for marketing. They take it off of the actual model name.
Yeah.
Right, but the model name literally has new 3DS, right?
Does it?
Yeah, it's part of the name. But moving on from there, we've got another email with corrections. This time from Dave, and I'll read this one since I think it's mostly my mistakes here.
What? Neil making mistakes?
All the time, baby. Hello, Soman's Hawk Show, which, for those of you that don't know, Soman is a pressed noodle. Were we talking about ramen the other day, Scott? And like the difference between noodles?
I believe we were. Or, I mean, if we weren't, it's a conversation that I can imagine us having.
Yeah, so Soman is like a noodle that's usually eaten dry and cold, but then put into sauce, if I'm not mistaken.
It's so good.
No questions this time, just a couple corrections. During your discussion in regards to Shigenori Soejima, I think the title you were looking for was art director. Soejima has also worked on Atlas titles since 1995, including Persona for PSX or PlayStation. Neil's confusion may have also stemmed from the fact that while Kazuma Kaneko was the lead character designer for Persona Innocent Sin and Eternal Punishment, Soejima was the portrait artist, which one can reason that you ultimately see the portrait art far more than the official character art through the course of the game. The PS2 game Neil refers to is probably Stella Deuce. It is not very impressive compared to the rest of his portfolio. And on the topic of Mace Windu, you all have some notions correct. Jedi Master Windu is in the process of reverse shocking Palpatine, or as I like to mention, connecting the prequel and original trilogy by making Palpatine a very pale, wrinkly old man when Anakin perfects his right-hand slicing technique on Windu. After losing his hand, Palpatine delivers a shocking end to Windu as he is thrown out of the skyscraper to his death.
You really should have said Palpatine delivers a shocking.
Yeah. You should give Dave credit for that writing. That was a good pun.
Anyway, sorry.
Agreed. P.S. Bethesda, Microsoft, and Sony all boarded me to tears this E3.
That makes two of us.
Speaking of E3, what say we talk about some E3 press conferences, eh?
So, just a general side note. In response to the boringness of the E3 for Dave should do what I did this year. Just not be hyper excited about anything. So then you're just pleasantly surprised by everything.
Was there anything to get hyper excited about in the first place is my follow-up question.
Well, maybe.
I was not.
I think there were a few things you could expect. Maybe wrongfully assume that would be at the press conference or one of the any of the press conferences. And I think there were a few surprises to kind of support Cookie's notion here. Let's get into the heart of it. The conferences that happened since we last podcasted were Microsoft, Bethesda, Devolver Digital, the PC gaming show.
What?
Ubisoft, Sony, and Nintendo, or rather they had a Nintendo Direct E3 edition. I figured we're just going to talk about some of the major conferences that we can kind of comment on like how they actually went, if there was any relevance to them. And then we'll get into the games from there, at least the games we have time to actually talk about and that we want to talk about for better or worse. So starting off with Microsoft, we have the leather-clad Phil Spencer and their announcement of the Xbox One X, which is coming out November 7 at the price of $499. Along with that, we also heard that Xbox One's current backwards compatibility will be going even further back with original Xbox support. They showed a lot of games during the conference, but only a few that were actually Xbox One and Windows 10 exclusive, namely Crackdown 3, Forza, and I think one of their pirate games is also Xbox and Windows 10
Sea of
exclusive.
Thieves.
And we saw a lot of pirate games this year.
Yeah.
3 or 4, if I'm not
You're
mistaken.
the pirate. Arr. Well, Sea of Thieves, Skull and Crossbones. Was there another one?
I was going to say, either way, none of them were Blackwake.
That's true. That's kind of what I was thinking about the whole time I was watching these trailers, just thinking, man, they don't seem as fun as Blackwake. They seem way more polished.
Yeah, they look really pretty and really clean, and that would totally kill the fun that is the like glitchy teamwork madness of Blackwake. Also, I'd say that I don't know how easy it's going to be for communication on games that are console based when people are less likely to have a mic versus PC based where almost everybody has a mic. That's one of the things I like about Blackwake is you can almost always communicate with your team because most people have a mic and are talking on the all chat or the proximity chats.
And it's not, on console at least, it's not people don't have mics. Everyone just elects not to use their mics because
it's
kids
Xbox
ruin
Live.
it. Because the kids ruin it. And you're just like, well, I'm muting everybody now. Fuck these guys.
But I think of all the communities, you could argue that the Xbox community has access to microphones, or like they have more microphones ready than, say, the PS4 or obviously the Nintendo community.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
Well, obviously the Nintendo community.
But I did want to talk about some of the preconceived notions that we had around Project Scorpio, specifically
How they were all wrong.
Yeah, all of those clues we got in that viral marketing.
That Neil so happily looked into and
Yeah,
followed the rabbit
and
trail.
I definitely don't want to take credit here because it was well documented across the interwebs before we did our podcast last week. But we got a bunch of clues that turned out to either be false clues or just misleading, like specifically that text that was X10S101317, which that sure as hell looked like that was going to be the release date. What's the deal? Is that kind of underhanded by the team that created those Xbox teasers?
Yes, it's just a thing that says, you people have no life. Stop this.
Yeah, and why waste the valuable time that these people with no life have on a red herring chase? They could have just as easily not released anything and then let them do their conspiracy theories or falling down the rabbit hole of something else.
So my question is, when you have a video with a bunch of viral marketing in it and like ciphers, you could say, that have all proven to be untrue so far, the one that we have yet to see, which is 6 is greater than 4, is that going to turn out to be false too?
It's going to have 8 teraflops? Is that what you're saying?
Are they just finally admitting that a teraflop means nothing?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean nothing?
I still think teraflops are a hoax created by China.
Just like climate change, baby.
Because what does a teraflop measure?
Like I said, the awesomeness of your console.
Exactly.
No,
We should get a PC expert on here to talk about teraflops.
I had a better answer for that like 3 months ago or something when they started publishing specs for the Xbox, or at least speculated on the specs.
Right. I remember looking over, Wikipedia on a couple of the details about the mechanics of the Xbox's sleek new parts and whatnot. But if you can't summon it from memory now, do you really know it at all?
Oh, it measures its speed.
It's speed, huh?
Its speed, and can be expressed as a trillion floating point operations per second. 10 to the 12th power floating point operations per second.
So
2 to the 40th power flops.
first question, is $499 even worth it?
No.
I think that's pretty high price. I'm actually kind of surprised too that they haven't really gotten into the VR movement.
That's super big because we
Yeah.
were getting so many hints of that being like a topic of discussion last year for this particular E3.
Oh yeah.
And then radio silence on most of it.
yeah.
PlayStation's conference was like, hey, here's the back half of our showcase and look at all of these VR games we're about to
Right.
have.
Absolutely no discussion on it. And outside of the press conference, during interviews, the only time you heard VR mentioned was in relation to Windows 10.
Oh.
So I think they're either going to have a silly port, or they have a silly port going on right now. Or did the last Xbox One have 2 HDMI ports?
No idea.
It did, but one was meant as like a through, so that way you could have...
Well, then never mind, because I was going to say this one's got 2 HDMI ports, so maybe they're trying to integrate it for future, or it's just going to be a useless port like the N64 cartridge on the bottom.
Maybe I'm mistaken, but I thought that the One X actually took away one of the 2
No,
HDMI
it's got 2.
ports.
It's got 2.
Okay.
I believe. Let me double check that.
But yeah, I was just surprised because it's so up and coming, and they're putting out a new console. I would have thought they would have done something with it. But
Especially considering that they've had like some pre-existing partnership with Oculus in the past.
mhm.
Now, granted, I know Oculus is having its own issues with the ZeniMax lawsuit, but they were adamant that this was going to be a VR capable box last year. So not hearing anything about it now really like throws red flags to me, not only because of that misleading notion or potentially the back down from VR capabilities, but also like, why would you need to stop short on that
Mhm.
we'll say campaign promise? Is it because the machine's not strong enough to process at a steady resolution for the headset that they want to make? Maybe they're coming out with hardware and that's why they're holding off on any announcements. And if they're doing something for themselves and for Windows 10, I'm assuming they would have it on both.
Oh yeah.
Is that even wise to introduce a fourth headset into the
Right.
The
greater
HoloLens, man. The HoloLens.
Well,
Well, so
maybe
that's
why.
augmented VR or VR. No,
AR versus
AR.
VR.
Thank you.
At this point, what we can say as a total consensus is that Xbox, if not dropped the ball on VR, at least set themselves up for this, now like scrutiny and skepticism by being so heavy about leading into this conference being a VR thing from last year, and then just deciding to pretend like it never happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's a bad move, and they're probably totally aware of the fact that they overpromised last year, or at least set up a lot of hype, and then they decided to ignore it, which never goes over well.
And then price the console at $500,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of money for a console that hasn't pitched Halo 6 yet.
So real quickly too, while we're talking about like their shortcomings, I also thought it was a mistake for them to emphasize their non-exclusive titles.
Right, they really did. I feel like emphasize it.
Like Crackdown 3 and Forza should be your big pushes because those are the games that you're only going to get on the Xbox if you're playing on a console.
Right. If I were a company and I show off how cool Anthem is, and then a consumer looks at that and they go, "Oh, cool! This is going to be awesome on my PS4 Pro." You've shot yourself in the foot.
And I understand that like Sony did that last year, but this year it's just gotten really bad. It just seems like it's a measure of auctioning out who's going to show off your game, who can pay us the most money to show off our game at their conference. And I really wonder if that many people fall for the trick of like, oh, well, they showed it at Xbox or they showed it on PS4, so that means it's on PS4.
Yeah.
I don't think many, but Microsoft was doing the Microsoft exclusive for every single game, and you're like,
that's right.
No,
No,
it's not. You might
The
have
Xbox version is a Microsoft exclusive. You can't run the PS4 version on your Xbox.
Well, so moving on to Bethesda, how did you guys enjoy that overarching cartoon segue from trailer to trailer to trailer?
I liked it. It was their thing.
It was very Bethesda, so to speak. Like, it felt weird watching it, I guess, but I didn't have any reason to dislike it or hate it or be like, "What the hell are you guys doing?" It was a smooth way, I guess, to transition between each topic. So,
do you think it softened the blow to trying to that they made by trying to sell you Skyrim again?
I think
You
in a way, sort of. Like, it at least made it look like there was a lot of Bethesda stuff in the works that we should be interested in, even though I'd say that there's not a lot of things in the works that I really care about from Bethesda right now.
Well, right, and we should be clear to point out what is actually developed by Bethesda and what is just being published by Bethesda. Because in terms of first-party content out of Bethesda, we only saw rehashes and an MMO.
You saw Mario. Was that at Bethesda or was that at Nintendo?
Oh, wait, are you talking about that was
Rabbids?
Ubisoft that had the Rabbids?
Oh, never mind.
Ubisoft,
XCOM
yeah.
3.
What's Bethesda again?
Bethesda's Fallout, Elder Scrolls.
Doom? No.
Yeah, but none of those games, like the games that are most exciting with Bethesda's conference are all
It's the ones that they publish, not the ones they develop.
right.
They have their Hearthstone substitute, which looked. I mean, I don't like Hearthstone, but I'm going to bet that the people who do really love Hearthstone, and it has a lot of fans, probably aren't going to jump ship for some Bethesda copycat of it.
But it's Fables.
I can't remember the title of it. Fables.
I don't know. Legends?
I had it written down somewhere, and then I erased it because I felt like I didn't actually want to talk about it.
Well,
So-
my bad for mentioning it.
Yeah, so we won't then.
But Skyrim.
Yeah, Skyrim, and let's go ahead and jump forward just a little bit. We get Skyrim VR for the PSVR, and we also have Skyrim for the Switch now as well. That's 2 ways to buy Skyrim. 2 new ways. They exceeded my expectations at reselling Skyrim.
They exceeded my patience with the Skyrim Switch thing, and then when they dropped the treasure chest and the Dovahkiin puts on like Breath of the Wild gear, I audibly just went.
I audibly went, I fell for it.
Looks
fell
like
for
we
it,
can
Scott.
determine who the target audience is from this.
It's this guy who wants to play more Breath of the Wild, but instead of actually playing Breath of the Wild, he wants to just become a lumber millman. The last 4 times I've played Skyrim, I quite literally get to the first area, and then I just play in the lumber mill for like 7 hours straight.
Wow, if I hit the action button here, I'll grab a log.
And then he moves the log over to the thing, and then you make money, and you're like, I'm just going to set up shop right here.
Yeah, I
This
actually
is my
can't,
job.
I can't criticize you for that because I think when I first bought it, we're talking November 11th of 2011.
Oh my
I
God, it's been
I
that long.
finished that. Yeah, it's been that long. That's the other thing. This game is now 6 years old.
Wow.
My goodness.
And
I
they
mean,
repackaged it
got
and
a-
sold it
yeah.
2 years ago? Or was it last
It's
year?
got a graphical update, but that's it. The gameplay's the same. There's no change there.
All right,
But I
let's
also
address
went
the
to a lumber
elephant in
mill.
the room. Cookie, you said you're falling for it. Which version are you more likely to buy?
Switch.
Switch, not the VR?
Well, because they're literally reselling me. So if I owned Skyrim on the PlayStation 4, which I don't, I own it on the PC. Thank God, because I wasn't actually going to pay for the new repackaging they did last year because they were giving it to me for free if you owned it.
Right.
With PlayStation VR version, even if you owned the version that they sold you last year, it's still a $50 game
Oh,
for the VR
Wow.
version.
yeah.
Yes, Scott, it retails at $49.99. You do not get that on the same console that you already own it on. So it's
Wow.
like
You
when
guys-
they
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so when they resold it to you last year, Scott, you didn't have to pay for it. You got it for free because you already owned it.
No, I would have had to pay for it because I didn't have the DLCs.
You didn't have the DLCs?
I did not have the
It
DLCs.
was, I think I bought it on a Steam sale for like $5 with all the DLC.
I bought it on a Steam sale before the DLCs even happened. So that was
so-
the issue. And then I decided I didn't like Skyrim, so I didn't buy the DLCs.
So
But yeah.
then you would have had to rebuy the entire thing. But yeah, so the people who bought it
Right.
for PlayStation 4 last year will have to buy it again. And one thing that was brought to my attention by one of my podcasts I listened to, someone mentioned they're like, so they showed Skyrim in VR. How are you going to move?
You could imagine. I'm making the assumption that in comparison to Doom VFR, I know we're jumping ahead here, but we'll keep it short. That it's going to be free movement similar to Resident Evil 7.
I hope
they
it
also
is.
showed
I hope
it
it's
with-
not like Doom VFR.
Where it's teleporting, but they also showed it with the motion controls. There aren't any joysticks on the motion controls, guys.
Yeah,
You don't have an
Cookie.
analog stick?
There are no analog sticks on the motion
What about
controls.
a D-pad?
Nope.
Maybe you have to lean forward to move, like
You
in
gotta tilt your
Golem.
head.
But so it's like,
Because it's the PSVR is a sitting experience, right?
yeah,
You can't like turn around.
you cannot turn around. You can turn around, but
At some point, you lose tracking.
yeah,
right?
everything's
Oh.
going to be, because if you're holding a controller, as soon as you turn your back to the one camera that you've got,
Yeah.
your controller's gone. It can at least somewhat kind of vaguely track your head because of the light sensor that's on the back of the PSVR.
Oh.
But yeah, no, it's not like a standing
So how would you play Super Hot?
super hot.
Yeah.
Hot. Super.
I'm guessing they're probably going to do something around the lines of getting ahead because this isn't for Bethesda.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But
It's fine.
They're gonna they're probably gonna like redesign some of the levels, kind of like how they did for what they did with Farpoint, where
Oh,
if an enemy gets behind you, they'll scurry in front of you, so that way you don't have to turn
Oh.
around.
So we probably can't speculate too far, but it might just be a controller-only VR experience like Resident Evil 7 then.
Possibly,
Might.
but they showed it with.
They did with the
I believe they
PlayStation?
showed it with the PlayStation.
Well,
Move.
we did see it for the Switch
I know.
motion controls.
Yes.
So I do remember that. I don't remember the Move controls being
I'll
a
have
thing.
to double check because if it is with move controls, then.
Then
But if it's not with move controls, then why the fuck are you doing it?
because the 3D VR experience. I mean, it's just like Resident Evil 7. doesn't necessarily make it a bad experience because you don't use move controllers, you know?
Yeah, but in this one, you're quite literally swinging a sword
Or using a bow.
or using a bow.
So,
Yeah,
anywho.
and looking around, I mean, in VR is cool, but let's say you're playing Skyrim on PC. If you have your mouse sensitivity at even like a medium setting, you can pan around in a pretty natural way already. Like the physical act of turning your head cannot be exciting enough for me to pay another $50 to $60 ever.
Are you sure?
Oh, I am so sure. I had to turn the gain down on my mic when you were talking about the $49.99 price point because I thought my blood boiling was actually going to clip on the mic.
Well, do you have any any other closing thoughts about Bethesda, Scott?
About Bethesda in general, I realized that my hopes and dreams that we did on last episode, I wasn't obviously in the clearest state of mind because I forgot about Dishonored 2 DLC. And yeah, they don't publish it, they don't develop it, but they do publish it, and I am fucking hyped for Death of the Outsider. Like, I lost my shit when I realized that I forgot to say I hope to see some more Dishonored 2 content. Otherwise, Bethesda, the end of the conference was cool. I never played Wolfenstein, but I'm considering picking up this game because I really liked their trailer for it. And I know two people who really loved the Wolfenstein games whose opinions on games I normally respect. So
yeah,
Bethesda,
they had a good
That's fine.
third-party support or lineup this year, I thought.
totally agree. Their personal ideas, what they've developed, I really don't care about right now, but that's fine because if they're going to keep publishing other, good games from third-party developers, more power to them. That's what I like them for right now anyway.
Final thoughts on Bethesda?
I'm gonna become a lumbermillman on the Switch.
So that leads us to Devolver Digital, which was maybe the best E3 experience of the year.
Are the worst.
Or the best.
Are the worst.
Yeah, it totally just depends on your perspective. As far as show goes, I'd say it was definitely the best. As far as the games it demonstrated, the bulk of the conference showed 2 twin-stick shooters, which the only twin-stick shooter I like is Nier Automata, and that's because it's only a twin-stick shooter 40% of the time.
What did they show?
Well, I don't even remember because it was that inconsequential.
Exactly. One was Serious Sam, and the one before that, I don't even remember the title.
But I want to be fair to them, or I want to defend them on this point. They were adamant before the conference on Twitter and other social media and their website that their conference, quote unquote conference, would not have any new games or really any new content. The only thing they pushed was that we're going to have an appearance from Suda51, which was also a troll move because there was absolutely no announcement on new work or anything. But by the fact that they were saying that there was no new titles being shown, I think they were true to their word and they weren't necessarily misrepresenting.
What I'm getting from you at this point is I've got to be more engaged with news outlets in order to enjoy it.
Not necessarily. I thought it was obvious from the get-go that their conference was just a mockery or a parody of every other conference this year.
I thought it was just going to be their Ubisofting of it. And then I was like, well, this is still going on. Okay.
It was only 15 minutes long and lots of fake audience reactions. And I don't know if you noticed, but they kept using the same B-reel,
yeah.
which was awesome. And just being very upfront about how E3, these E3 conferences are getting to a point where they're kind of bullshit at times. So
let's pay the developers to have a thought.
Yeah.
I just want to see games.
I understand your stance.
That's why I go to E3. Sure, the spectacle of the full orchestra of Sony is cool.
But I mean that's you say that's why you go to E3 or that's why you watch E3, but I feel like it's more correct to say that's why you would go to PAX.
To see games?
Yeah, to see games.
But PAX isn't live streamed.
Are you
at
sure?
a set time. No.
If you're
It's-
watching the League of Legends tournament held at PAX, it is. No, but
Wait,
Yeah.
question for you, Cookie. You watched the live streams of it?
Yeah.
Okay. See, that's where I'd say that it's a buyer beware situation. I waited for everything to post before I even looked at it or started writing about it because I don't got time for that. I don't got time for Microsoft to say 4K, 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 4K
60
over
frames, 4K.
and over and over again. I only need to hear about the teraflops once. And then I forget what a teraflop is, so I probably don't need to hear it ever.
Pretty
But
much.
yeah, I think the live streaming, I saw the opportunity to do that and realized that I just didn't want to burn that much time sitting and waiting for them to pull up new stuff. So I waited until it was a YouTube video and I could just click past it whenever I saw someone on stage.
Yeah, I think I did
That
that
makes
for the
sense.
majority of my conferences too. There were a few, of course. And speaking of those that we witnessed live, Cookie, you and I went to the Sony E3 press conference aired at a local theater.
Correct.
And I don't know, to kind of start off our conversation, as we've previously mentioned, there was a decent amount of PSVR support that we saw through the conference. I think it was 4 or 5 titles showcased. And I was going to say it's rather telling, though, that I think one of the biggest bits of news that they gave us was before the conference with their reveal of Undertale being ported over to the PlayStation 4 and the Vita, which I know you haven't personally played Undertale, but you saw the reaction in the audience when they announced that, and it was
People
pretty
were
ridiculous.
freaking out.
Yeah. Like the only other thing that drew a louder applause, and not as a result of a joke from someone in the audience either, was the remake, the announcement of the remake for Shadow of the Colossus.
And that was before they even knew it was Shadow of the Colossus. They just saw Japan Studio.
Yeah,
and
they-
it was like,
That's actually a really good point. When we'll probably talk about that in a bit, but like as a whole, I thought it wasn't really that tremendous or crazy. And even Shuhei Yoshida went on in an interview later that week to say that they decided not to show quite a bit of stuff. They're probably saving it up for PSX and for I'm assuming Tokyo Game Show, but notably nothing from Software either.
I got to see games.
Yeah.
And so it looks like you set up a bunch of things for the PSVR. So yes, as an owner of a PlayStation 4 PSVR, I would be ecstatic too. Like, because the games, you hear about all these excellent games in VR, and then you're like, okay, I can't afford to have a computer and a $800 headset so $1,000 computer plus an $800 headset because it needs to be at least a minimum spec. So you get the PSVR, and then it's like you don't have access to those games.
Right. So you're in an interesting situation where you have a Vive and the PSVR. Do you personally feel compelled to play any of those PlayStation games or the VR games?
Would they announce
They announced
that wasn't on the Fiverr?
Transference, The Inpatient, Moss, and Star Child. I'm not sure if they're all PSVR exclusives.
I remember Transference. That was the scary one with the Hobbit kid, right?
Yes, Elijah Wood.
Okay.
Uh,
The Impatient also sounds like it's probably a scary one. I kind of wanted to look up Moss, and Star Child look boring.
yeah, Moss looks super cute. I like. There's something that throws there's something about having a VR experience where you're not actually in a first person view that makes me ask, or it begs the question, like, why the fuck is this even a VR game?
Right.
But at the same time, I thought that was kind of interesting, interacting as some like ethereal presence, I guess, influencing the mouse in his world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cute fucking mouse too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was like, so cute.
So that's like the only one that really interested me because I don't like scary things. And
And
even
it was
if
a
it's
puzzle game.
Hmm?
Puzzle-y. It looked,
Moss.
yeah.
But like for the other games, it's just like, yeah, everything on PSVR is about like trying to scare people and being the scary experience, whereas the stuff on the PC is like just random shit. Like I don't need a first-person shooter for every single game that I play. I honestly am very disappointed that Tilt Brush still isn't on the PSVR.
Yeah.
That's what they fucking need. That's all they need. Just put Tilt Brush on there.
There were a couple really good interviews after after the last day of E3 where some VR developers were basically calling out the industry as a whole, saying that like so many VR titles now are just about jump scares and first person shooters. And like people don't want that, especially if it's their first foray into VR. They don't want to be shocked and scared. They want to just experience things. Like that's why when we were talking about Google Earth VR, like how that can be such a magical experience because you're literally exploring this virtual world.
I put 2 of my friends in Google Earth VR, and they were like, "Oh, snap! This is actually what Tokyo looks like." They were building the tower when we were there. Oh man, our female friend was like, "Babe, this is the school. We should find your apartment. So they spent like 15 minutes wandering around Tokyo trying to find the apartment. They did not. But yeah, so I'm more interested in, and I think Lizzie mentioned it before when I put her in PSVR. I mean, when I put her in the HTC Vive, she was like, these are much slower experiences. Whereas all the stuff that's on the PSVR, they're like really quick. And I think that also helps with why the PSVR, I find, even though it's the most comfortable headset, it is more susceptible to having anything to do with motion sickness.
Yeah, I get really motion sick with that.
Whereas with the Vive, it's like it slows you down, which is what I really want.
But the headset gives me a headache.
Unfortunately,
just from like the tension of the bands and so forth.
No, the pressure, everything being on the front of her face, rather
weight.
than being supported in the back of the head.
Right.
So I'm gonna get the audio strap that they're coming out with. It's a rigid strap that goes around the back of your head that comes with headphones. Not for the headphone portion, just for the rigid strap.
Well,
Hey, Scott, you exist.
Yeah. Did you guys have any other thoughts on the Sony press conference? I don't know if you ended up watching it, Scott.
Yeah, I actually ended up watching almost every conference against what I thought I was going to be doing. But when we get to the big game talk is probably when I'll have anything to say about the Sony conference. Otherwise, it was cool to see that they broke out. I still don't know what you're talking about because remember, I skip everybody on stage. So if there was like a pseudo bald white guy on the stage, that's all I can imagine.
I don't think he actually made it to stage, but if you watched any of like the behind the scenes things with Sony, he was an announcer, and you did not drop Fancy Ramen once, Scott.
I'm sorry, guys. I'll do better next year. I'll write myself a letter asking myself to do a better job at doing promos for Fancy Ramen.
Good.
Yeah, I'd say, besides specific game talk, it was really cool to hear that Undertale is coming to PlayStation. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy that game. I wasn't, or I don't know how to put it. If I were in a position where I got to broadcast what my game of the year was back in, I think 2015, it would have been Undertale.
Oh.
So I'm very excited to see that it's going to get some new life past just PC players.
I'm hoping that's the case because after E3, I've got a few coworkers that have PlayStation 4s, and I didn't want to push it really hard because I know how that can turn people off from actually trying a game. But I did the subtle, like, you know what, you guys should probably pick this game up because it's pretty good. A lot of people consider it like the best game of 2015/14, whenever it was.
And you won't
released.
find a game like it. You won't find any game that's necessarily that you can say it's it reminds me of this, and in a very specific way, besides, say, like the art style that's reminiscent of Mother or the JRPG kind of like menu format. The game itself is super unique, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, but the responses I got were very negative, and for a variety of reasons. I absolutely hope you're right, but I'm also just kind of wondering
If
how
they're-
successful it will reach the PlayStation audience.
I don't think
Well-
it's going to be that successful, honestly.
Yeah,
Because I want to say, even though there were like lots of cheers in our stadium, these are also the guys that I'm pretty sure that have the bare minimum PC
exactly.
that have already experienced Undertale, because that's what the people that are going to be excited as soon as someone hears, oh yeah, we're getting Undertale, a game that came out in 2015. Oh,
I already have it. Yeah.
are they going to just be like, oh, that game's old, why would I want to play this? Because I can just play Skyrim.
So
Scott.
my bigger hope for this is that there's going to be new content. I kind of doubt it.
I highly
But-
doubt it.
I would love to see like even some new Easter eggs or something, like something supporting the Sands is a human conspiracy, a bunch of things like that. Because there are definitely some open-ended things in Undertale that I would love to be further elaborated. But considering editing and all that stuff, I think we probably have a good 20 minutes to talk about some games. So unless there's anything we really want to talk about with Nintendo's E3 Direct, you want to move into the...
I liked Ubisoft.
Was there anything in Ubisoft that was not game related?
No, which is why it
Nope.
was my favorite conference.
Exactly. So yeah, let's roll into the bulk of this discussion about the games themselves.
All right, time for a hot take, guys. So first game on the list is Spider-Man. My only comment to that is fuck me.
Yeah, it looks real fucking good.
Yeah, I should honestly just put like the empty quote brackets next to it to also fuck me. Like, once you're done getting fucked, Cookie, it's my turn. Because, like, holy shit, I haven't played a good Spider-Man game in so long. And,
It did look good.
oh, it looked so good.
Did you notice just how smooth the gameplay felt? I was telling
Mhm.
Cookie after the show that like that can't be recorded gameplay. That seems scripted as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And
it
I'm
was
not saying
so
it's necessarily
cinematic.
bad, but it was just the smoothest gameplay I have ever seen.
Cookie mentioned something that he doesn't actually think Spider-Man can walk or run.
On buildings, you mean? Or
Did I?
Yeah, well, when we were watching it, you said, I think he can only move by shooting his web.
Oh yeah, because when he was like doing through the scaffolding, through the gameplay footage, he wasn't actually ever like running around. He was just shooting the dual webs out and flinging himself.
wasn't there one portion where he's running up a building with his feet though?
Oh, yeah.
That's about the only time
true.
he runs, when he's on the side of a building.
And that was cinematic. Like that was not implied gameplay, right?
I think it might have been
Really?
because
So
it's going to be an open world.
I would.
Well, right, but I'm wondering if that particular shot was actually the player controlling. I didn't think it was implied.
I think the chase, you have to figure out, you've got to know the controls to do those 90-degree turns
Oh,
attached to the wall. What were you going to say, Scott?
I'm gonna bet that Spider-Man will. I mean, I don't think we're actually asking, is he gonna be able to move or not? It's obvious that he will.
Oh, yeah.
Why else would you have a left analog stick? But I think you could say that for Spider-Man I'm coming all the way back from playing Spider-Man 2
Two.
for like the
Two.
GameCube
Two was the good one.
or the
Two was
PlayStation.
the good
That
one.
was so good. But
Yeah.
once you got really good at web slinging, you actually really stopped ever trying to run around or move on the ground. Like, you're using webs all the time, and the two webs out in front of him is like a slingshot or like a zip line kind of technique. I think that's what it was called. It was the web zip technique or something. Anyway, I think partially because it's the developers getting to play, so they're going to be really adept at their movement because they know the optimal ways to do it. Though maybe it's not fair to assume that developers are good at the games that they make.
Yeah.
But it looks scripted enough as far as like say the area, just that beam is right next to 4 guys to knock out and take out a 5th. Like it looked super smooth because I think that area is designed to be utilized in a way to take out those grunts to give you a more cinematic experience. I'm sure when you're having just like a random encounter on the street or in a back alley or something, it's not going to be nearly as smooth. There's going to be a lot more just like brawling and micromanaging damage to each like minion enemy or whatever.
And I'm not
But-
necessarily claiming it was scripted or not true gameplay. It just seemed that whoever was playing the game was so perfect as to move everything in the perfect way for our viewing pleasure,
Mhm.
and also to avoid any wasted frames of animation. Like that, I mean, I would love to be wrong because that game in its current form looked amazing. It looks like a pre-order for me,
I think
being
what,
the person that only pre-orders like very selectively.
Yeah, I think what Cookie and you and I all have for hopes is that we can buy that game and we can do almost exactly what we saw in that trailer. Like
Yeah.
we can play the game to that level of proficiency and just be that smooth as Spider-Man, because there's no better feeling. There really isn't.
I want some morality choices too. Like, was it not Spider-Man 2 that gave you a few different, not necessarily routes, but like,
Do I save this person or do I go this way?
yeah.
It
Mhm.
did. Especially my favorite, like really dramatic, like I'd say philosophical conundrum was: do you pop the girl's balloon or do you let it, or do you grab it before it floats away? I popped the balloon after probably saving 50 balloons in the city. I'm like, no, we're done with this shit.
Well,
My
we may
balloon.
want to move on from Spider-Man if we want to get
Keep
into
this going.
anything else. Yeah.
So Call of Duty, boots on the ground. Me and Lizzie are avid, huge Call of Duty fans, but we've been out of the loop for the past 2
Couple?
games.
Yeah.
And it's like the second from last game. I forget what it was even called. I got it. We played it for like a month, and then that was it. And then we just
Yeah.
completely skipped Infinite Warfare, Call of Duty 4 Remaster. So
Mhm.
we're bigger fans of. So we think this is going to be the one. I've been watching a lot of gameplay footage of the multiplayer that they had, like the streamers and a bunch of other people do. So like Drifter was there and a bunch of other famous COD streamers. And watching it, looks good. Looks like everything I want it to be. That's all I
Yeah.
wanted to say about that. Any thoughts, Scott? Neil?
No, I still haven't played a Call of Duty since I haven't owned one since Modern Warfare, and I haven't played one since like Black Ops. So
I haven't owned one since Medal of Honor. And
wow.
we're now back to World War II, and I might be
Inclined?
a little
Neil's
I might be
all
on the wrong
about
side
that.
of the fence here, but I'm perfectly fine with a return to World War II. I would love
Mhm.
to see like a plot-filled single player campaign, because that's really all I play first-person shooters for.
Neil's all about the
Ironically.
story behind that car 98K.
Ironically, that's one of my favorite things about Call of Duty is the story mode.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Scott, let's address one on your list here, Mario Odyssey.
You guys all saw the same trailer I did, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know why I didn't put it on my list for that matter, too.
I
because
kind of just forgot. I was implying the Mario Odyssey with my Mario Rabbit, so
that looks like a fucking great Mario game. Oh, wait, you do have it on your list. I just saw it.
is it?
Yeah.
Odyssey is Odyssey on my list?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
it's a little bit lower.
that game looks real good.
Oh
Good.
yeah. It looks, I mean, I loved Super Mario Sunshine. I know a lot of people really, really love Super Mario 64 and still think that just had amazingly crisp controls and a wonderful world. I didn't like it that much, and probably because I wasn't that skilled at it, but Super Mario Sunshine was just such a good, like, game. Oh man, I loved playing it, and I hope that Super Mario Odyssey, with this really weird ability to, like use the powers of almost anyone else in your environment, is gonna bring back that like new taste of mobility mechanics and just weird special powers that Mario's got to use in his environment.
Mario's gonna be a dinosaur.
It's like the ultimate in all of Mario's games, right? He gets a different hat or like a feather or something that lets him have one special ability or power or something.
Tanuki.
And yeah, and everybody has their favorite, whether it's the Tanuki suit or for mine, I really love the feathers from Super Mario World.
Actually, the penguin outfit that he got in one of the games.
So everybody's got a favorite, but it's going to be even more diverse in this game because you can throw your hat on literally anything, it looks like, and you can just be that or do that thing that it is. You can be a ball of lava or one of those lightning orbs on a like a cable. Oh man, I'm so excited. I'm really thrilled for this game.
I am actually so thrilled for this game that I put myself on a blackout.
Oh, you're not going to look at it at all?
Nope. I saw that
me
trailer
too.
and was like, yeah, okay. And every time I see like, oh, we're playing Super Mario, nope.
Time to watch something else.
Pretty much. So anything to do with the new Mario games that have just been announced, I'm not even gonna see anything about them now.
I was super confused when they brought out the dinosaur though, and I'm like, what the fuck does this have to do with the Mario? Oh my god, he's a dinosaur. He's the frog. When the frog got the mustache is when I was like bowled over. Just I couldn't stay in my seat. Yeah, I was in.
It's weird because I think the thing I'm most interested in after this E3 is Detroit Become Human. Or is it Becoming Human? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
No, it's Become Human. I edited it for you because you had it wrong.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Real quickly, I saw that and I felt very confident after watching that trailer or a bit of gameplay, whatever, that game's more Heavy Rain and less Beyond Two Souls. In more ways than just the practical ones, like some of the practical ones being that, hey, you have multiple main characters. I think it's safe to say that you control Kara, I think was the tech demo that this game stemmed from. You probably control her. You probably control the investigator. And you also, as we have seen, we know you can control the investigator from past trailers. And now you control...
at least one of two of the anarchists. Then there's the black guy that you control, and the other white female that you control.
So
it's a robot.
As a whole, we have three people that we're controlling, and they're all robots or cyborgs or whatever these things
Androids?
are. Androids, thank you. Jesus, that's loud. My apologies. So as a whole...
Was that your Android?
It was. As a whole... It seems like it's going to be real good, or hopefully. I'm falling for the quantum or quantic dream again, guys.
It's sort of what I actually wanted Deus Ex's storyline to be about.
Then it turned out to be like a really bad play on racial tensions.
Well, I guess I played Deus Ex because as someone who not only just finds it really cool, but has like a background in understanding science that has to do with like transhumanism and things of that nature. It also really brings me into, the ethics of like, I guess, AI and consciousness as well. Like super big topics that I love to think about.
Which Deus Ex are you talking about?
I'm talking about Human Revolution, right? That was
so
that was the one
not
before
the
this most
Og
recent.
Lives Matter. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so back on track here. Cookie, your next item is Dragon Ball FighterZ.
So I'm actually going to combine Dragon Ball FighterZ and Marvel vs. Capcom 2 because I'm not nearly as excited for Marvel vs. Capcom 2 as I am for Dragon Ball Z now. So it's made by the same people who made Guilty Gear Xrd. And that's just like a phenomenal people to be doing that because their style and animation is already so anime influenced that it just goes for me. And honestly, Budokai was revolutionary as the first like 3D Dragon Ball Z fighting game.
So true.
But before that, we only had 2D fighting games, and there were a bunch of Dragon Ball Z fighting games that were just amazing. And like looking at more of this one and some gameplay from Maximilian, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, this game just seems like it is a well-polished fighter.
Yeah.
And less like a Dragon Ball Z game.
If it's a return
I
to
mean?
form to like the Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2 and Budokai 3 games for, I think that was PS2 era, I'm in. Like,
It's nothing like those.
I will play those games with you all day, Cookie, because
It's nothing like those.
What?
It's gonna be closer to Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like you're playing the Street Fighter of Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Like there's it looked like at least very little emphasis on like range game. And when you say range game in this case, it's more like you're a Shotokan or what is it? Is that the name you have for like Ryu and Ken?
I don't know what their like fancy
Whatever.
names are called. But yeah, so it's gonna be closer to Marvel vs. Capcom than Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
Yeah, that game seemed kind of slow when
They
I was
slowed it
watching
down.
it. Which why? Like Marvel vs. Capcom's supposed to be like Turbo Extreme Turbo.
Yep. Nope. Now we got Dragon Ball Z.
Which maybe that's appropriate because when you watch the animation in Dragon Ball Z fights, it's like, oh, I can't keep my eyes on their flowing fists. Now there are like 7 fists because they're fighting so fast.
Yeah. So, and the reason I want to combine this with Marvel vs. Capcom, so even though I did play the story trailer, the story demo that they've got going on right now, in the videos that I've been watching about the E3 coverage of these two of the fighting game, everyone's saying that, hey, that demo that's out is a much earlier build than what they actually had people playing at E3.
Really? That's weird.
Because they're like, it works so much better. It works so much better at E3 than it did
At
on
home.
that demo that everyone's got access to.
Is it faster too?
It's faster, more balanced, and that demo didn't really actually let you fight for all the. It was like really quick fights, so you don't actually get a chance to like check out the mechanics. I still am kind of excited for Marvel vs. Capcom just because I can use my silly, stupid characters. I'm going to be using Rocket and Groot because Groot is like Rocket Raccoon. Some of his special moves, Groot comes out for those. And I'm not talking like super ultra powerful things. I'm just talking like down, back, one. So light punch. Quarter circle backwards, light punch.
And then just Groot is any of your special attacks then, or a lot of them?
A lot of them.
That's cool.
Besides the guns, because rocket and guns. But Dragon Ball Z, man, that looks so good. And watching the special moves that they got going on, yeah, you can turn a level 3 super into a level 5 super in Dragon Ball Z. So yeah. So it starts off as level 3, then you input something else, and then it becomes a level 5 and it's more powerful. And you're like, yes! Anyway.
Let's tackle that hot take approach on these from here on out, okay, guys? Let's try and get through as many as we can before the clock ticks that magic number.
Totally. Okay, so we talked about Dishonored 2 already. All I need to say for the hot take is Corvo Attano is not the coolest character in Dishonored. It's actually Dowd. And so Dowd and Billy Lurk now is a once turncoat, now cyborg apprentice, or like second in command for Dowd. I'm just stoked for this game. This is one of those that I don't have to say I'll probably pick it up or I'm thinking about doing it. It's a guarantee that I will buy and play the shit out of this game.
As for me, Hidden Agenda looks really cool. It's the Jackbox Party Pack, but taken in a more serious angle.
Oh,
And yeah, I want to play that game a lot now after seeing that. And it's also made by the guys that did Until Dawn, so you know it's going to feel solid cinematically.
Monster Hunter Worlds? Yes.
It might be the first Monster Hunter game I play.
It's on a console, and it's a Sony console. Color me surprised. Like, legitimately. I did not see this coming.
Because normally it should be Nintendo, right?
It switched to Nintendo after
The PSP.
it was on the PSP. I think Dreamcast had the first one.
Yeah, you're right in the fact that it was called Phantasy Star Online. Yes.
But like, I was a huge fan of Monster Hunter 1 and 2. And so now that I can actually play it with a normal person controller, yeah. And Scott's got his PS4 now, so we've got our hunting party, guys.
Yes,
Right
let's
here.
do it.
I'm ready for it, yeah. So real quickly, Shadow of the Colossus, that's a remake It's important to note it's not just an HD remaster. They're going to be updating the controls, which I think
It's a
most
blessing.
people would agree to me that
That's a blessing.
yeah, that's a big quality of life improvement. If it controls better, that game is like potentially a 9 or a 10 for me.
That game is a 10 out of 10 if the controls are fixed. Like that's the only argument I've heard anyone ever make about it as a criticism.
Wolfenstein: The New Colossus, we've brushed on it a bit before, but the Wolfenstein games are fantastic.
I
But
was
we brushed-
laughing because it's Shadow of the Colossus and Wolfenstein: The New Colossus. So I was like, wait, we're talking about Shadow of the Colossus
Yeah,
again
speaking
for
of,
Wolfenstein?
speaking of Colossi,
We're talking about Wolf and Shadow, where you take down giant Nazis to bring back your dead girlfriend.
your dead Jewish girlfriend. Yeah, Wolfenstein, that looks really good. I shouldn't be surprised that they brought BJ back because it seemed like he was dead as fuck after the first game. But yeah, I'm down for it. That game does a really good job of making a first person campaign feel super significant and driven.
Ashen.
Yeah, Ashen. I don't know what to think of this game. It seems like when I saw it, I was like, oh, that seems Dark Soulsy as fuck.
It's Journey plus Dark Souls.
With roguelike elements?
I mean, maybe not only that, but the fact that you can just stumble into players who are already going through dungeons. Like in Dark Souls, you actively choose to have a partner, or someone has to actively choose to be invading. But in Ashen, it seems much more organic, where you can just bump into people when you're going through dungeons. And so you can make some pretty serendipitous or like unlikely alliances at any point in time, which just looks really awesome. I'm excited for it. I need more Dark Souls experiences.
So I didn't go too far into this game when I saw that it was Xbox and Windows 10 exclusive, partly because I don't want to fucking deal with the Xbox app on my computer. From what it looked like, was there friendly fire, so to speak? Could you kill other humans?
I had a really hard time determining that. I still don't know.
Next on the list?
Mario RPG 2.
Or XCOM 3, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah,
It's totally XCOM, and the movement in the map looks awesome, doesn't it?
It does. Diana, shield. Bam. Okay. Yep. Mario Rabbids. Getting it. Done. Also blacking myself out from everything.
I kind of hate that it has the Rabbids attachment to it. But
You know, everyone has a Jar Jar
are
Binks.
annoying.
yeah, Jar Jar Binks, thanks for pointing that out.
Everyone has a Jar Jar Binks. But yes, the Rabbids are annoying, Lizzie.
Yeah, they are.
So I'll take what I can get.
We have Far Cry 5 on the list here. I didn't watch all of Ubisoft. Did we get a lot of details?
No, not really. I think we already know the majority of the info for Far Cry from the last time we talked about it. I'm just feeling that, it's like, hey, I'm already living it. I might as well play it too. And so I'm just really excited that there's going to be a first-person shooter taking place in a location that I'm very familiar with, and that's like near and dear to my heart. I like that Far Cry has both good stealth and like shooting elements, and the allies look like they should be fun to interact with, and they might actually contribute in a meaningful way to firefights and enemy encounters.
So basically what you're saying is you're excited that you get a Watch Dogs 2 experience that for everybody who was in California.
Yeah, I guess so. Griftlands is next.
Yeah, that game looks interesting. It's another Clay Entertainment game, which those are the guys that did Don't Starve and more recently Oxygen Not Included.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Oh.
I love their art style, and I guess RPGs with like really fun or witty dialogue is always fun, even if it doesn't have that great of a combat mechanic. But the combat in this looks at least kind of cool and dynamic because they have a lot of like shifting character models, and the camera seems to be pretty dynamic as well. So it should just be neat.
And from what little I've looked into it, because when I saw this game, I was like, okay, I'm going to shut myself off from it. When it comes out, I'll play it. But you look at the dialogue boxes, and I know it's a very generic plain style, but for some reason it reminds me of early Dragon Age, which that is a good thing.
That is a great
That's
thing.
like classic Fallout, classic Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, exactly.
I just realized there was one conference I didn't watch. the PC conference. Because
You know, I didn't watch that one either, actually.
And you know what?
That's where this game came from.
I actually did watch that, and I skipped through almost all of it. It really wasn't worth your time.
Next up, Sea of Thieves. Now, don't let me get this confused. Is this the one with Microsoft?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
So it's the God, what was that game that you want us all to play, Scott?
Black Wake.
It's polished version of Black Wake.
It has really pretty water.
It's not a glitchy version of Black Wake.
But
From what
I think
see.
the glitchiness is what makes Black Wake great in certain aspects.
I wouldn't say it's the primary factor, but it certainly it doesn't detract from how fun Black Wake is.
But
I think Cookie and I are planning on getting this.
oh
one.
yeah, Sea of Thieves is a kind of a must.
So we saw a new Yoshi game.
Yeah, I'm pairing Yoshi and Kirby together. Those games are always
I
good.
would also do
I
that.
haven't played a console version of those that I haven't had a bunch of fun with. The dual perspectives on a map for Yoshi, like Nintendo's known for having excellent and very creative map design. And so I'm really excited to see what these levels are like, and I can't wait to play them.
And I think anyone that has the complaint that these games aren't exciting or riveting are missing the point. Like, you don't play Yoshi to, experience your Nathan Drake style thrill. You play Yoshi to chill the hell out and, play with a loved one or significant other. Like,
If you play a Yoshi game that has any sort of co-op with me, I promise there will still be plenty of stress.
because you're
I have a friend who still is kind of salty about the last time we played together.
I have a question. Is Kirby going to be also on the Unreal 4 engine? Because I know Yoshi is.
Oh, I didn't check that out actually. Yoshi looks a lot prettier than the Kirby.
Yeah, but I know the Yoshi's Unreal. These are the
Yoshi
Unreal.
is unreal.
Yes. Also stoked.
Let's say we have time for like a few more. The Evil Within 2. The first one was not considered too successful or that great of a game. I personally enjoyed it. And I'm just happy Shinji Mikami is making more survival horror games.
I like racing, and the Crew 2 is all the racing. All the racing. I don't care what you're in. You're in a boat, you racing. You on a plane, you racing. You in a car, I guess you're racing. I'm pissed at Steep. Pissed at it.
So you were excited enough to buy Steep,
Yes.
and then
We had a power outage, and apparently, I'm hoping it installed incorrectly because it wouldn't let me access the game. So I'm currently reinstalling it now.
and we'll see if you like it then afterwards.
Yeah.
The Artful Escape of Francis Vendetti.
Yes.
That just looks super pretty and like it could be a bunch of fun. I don't really have much for expectations, but I'm just gonna look into it some more when it gets closer.
Was
to being
that the
finished.
one? Was that the one where he pulled out the guitar?
Yes.
Yes. So guy platformer, he's running around and then he jumps into open space, pulls out a guitar, plays a power chord, and a platform pops up for him.
Mm.
And then he just keeps doing that. It's just like, "Ew."
Just like real life.
Mm.
Less metaphoric. Let's say we have one more from everyone. One last title from each person.
Complaint, Doom VFR. I don't like the teleporting. What's up with that? That's not why Doom is fun. Doom is fun because it's super fluid movement and gunplay at the same time. Not snap to, shoot, snap to, shoot, snap to.
Yeah, especially with this iteration of Doom being so great because the movement was such a big part.
Yeah.
This seems like a step back.
Kingdom Hearts 3 was not at E3
Oh my God.
because it's never going to be at E3 again. But they're making it a little bit easier because Square Enix kind of snuck out a patch for Kingdom Hearts 2.1.5, 2.5 HD Remix that allows you to just watch Kingdom Hearts 1 instead of having to replay it now.
Didn't they also have a trailer for Kingdom Hearts 3 show up like the day we recorded the last episode, and it looked real fucking good?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like,
But
it
that's-
looks close to being done.
No.
Really? You don't think so?
Nah, son. Nah.
I'm not saying it's close to being done. I'm saying it looked like it could come out at a reasonable
I
time.
wanted my game to be Life is Strange Before the Storm.
Okay, Life is Strange. That'll be my game then, I'll say.
No, you got to do Fractured Butthole. No, Fractured Butthole.
The Fractured But Whole is a game, and it's coming out. And when I thought I didn't know how worse they could get, aside from battling by your parents' genitalia, they then show gameplay of you giving a grown man a lap dance.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, this is apparently going to be really fucking offensive. I can't wait to try it. But getting back to the Life is Strange Before the Storm, it's a prequel. Do you even care about it?
Do you care about The Evil Within 2? It's also a prequel.
No, that's afterwards, I'm pretty sure.
No, it's a prequel.
What? Are you fucking kidding me?
It's before.
I knew it was
no,
a
no,
prequel,
no, no, no,
dude.
no, no, no. No, because the lady,
Mm-hmm.
you guys are breaking my shit over this.
No, it's a prequel.
All of the content we've heard so far, like the woman talking about the
It's
female
her mom.
agent. No, it's the girl within the first one.
No,
Are
no.
you guys sure it's a prequel?
It's a prequel.
Okay, I'm gonna look this up. Life is Strange 2, it's a prequel. Do you care? Like, because technically speaking, we already know what happens to the town.
Yeah, I destroy it. I haven't yet, but I will.
So
Neil,
So what?
by the way, I should point out that it is in fact a sequel. I just wanted to mess with you here.
okay.
I don't
Okay.
know if Cookie actually thought it was a prequel or not.
I could have swore they said it was a prequel.
No, it's totally a sequel.
They probably said sequel.
They could have said prequel.
Regardless, Life is Strange. It's a prequel. Does that mean she has the time rewinding powers?
I don't know, and that's why I'm kind of interested.
That's the only thing I'm curious about. I don't care about meeting Rachel Amber. Like,
If she
I'm
doesn't,
past it.
if she doesn't have time rewind powers, it's gonna feel pretty shitty.
So if she doesn't, what power do you think she could have?
Making bad decisions. You don't end up with blue hair overnight, Neil.
Wait, did I say The Evil Within 2? I meant, it doesn't matter. Hi.
what did you mean if not The Evil Within 2?
God, what's the one with the pig? The pig game. The pig and the monkey?
One game we haven't talked about yet. Good and Evil.
Yeah,
Beyond Good and Evil
Yeah.
2.
That one's a prequel that no one cares about,
Oh, great. Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go.
apparently.
That's how you get people interested. You make a prequel so you don't necessarily have to know the first game.
Exactly. So The Evil Within 2. Yeah, that's probably a sequel.
I just wanted to note that Wargroove is essentially going to be the next Advance Wars, and I'm cool with that.
You're cool with your strategy RPG, your turn-based tactical RPGs?
Especially if there's map building available to me. I spent so much time on a ROM of Advance Wars 2 building maps and then playing against friends.
I enjoyed Advance Wars. Lizzie, games? Happy? Sad?
I think we mentioned all the ones that I know about, and the only thing I would like to say is I wish there was more like couch co-op games, because I like playing with people.
But we can
On
play
one
Mario
console?
Odyssey together, Lizzie.
Yeah, that is actually going to have co-op play.
It's the one where he's throwing his hat around and we were talking
Oh
about
wait,
him being a
didn't you
dinosaur?
say that the hat is the second player?
Yes. You'll be the hat.
So will I actually be able to do things?
Yeah, that's the hat.
Oh, I thought it was like sometimes when games are two player, but the second player doesn't really get to do anything.
Knack? I mean, no, you'll it's gonna be oh god, Beyond Two Souls? Is that the game?
Yeah, where you control
You're-
Aiden as
you're
the second
Aiden.
player.
Or I'll be Aiden. Because you'll be Mario. Because that was Aiden last time.
Who's that?
Beyond Good and Evil, no. Dark Souls, no.
Jesus. I think this is as good a time as any to remind our viewers that
Shinigami Tensei.
if they need to correct us or contact us, they can reach us at podcast@fancyramen.com. You can also find us on YouTube using Fancy Ramen Podcast. That's two separate words for Fancy Ramen to find our channel page, as well as Facebook and fancyramen.com.
I will say two of our friends that do not own PS4s as of right now both said that the Shadow of Colossus game would be a reason they would buy it.
Well, just in time, too, for that $249.99 price
I
change
know.
on the PS4.
Mhm.
That's beautiful.
It is.
The Xbox One S is also $249.99, so don't let me show favoritism here. That's a very good price point, especially considering the Switch is $300, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah.
The Switch is $299.
Wow.
Makes that... I mean, I don't think the Switch is going to suffer at all, given that they have a very strong lineup of
They're ramping
a
up
few
production
games coming
again.
up. They need to, from
Yeah.
the sounds of it. Any closing thoughts before we officially sign off?
I think there's some good titles coming out.
Hidden Agenda.
Yeah, Hidden Agenda. Tacoma's finally coming out, but now that's an Xbox console exclusive.
Fuck
So,
is Tacoma.
Gone Home
Oh, okay.
in space.
Oh, wait.
Everything's better in space.
Pretty much. Question. Scott,
And I'm Scott.
Who won? Scott, who won E3?
Who won E3?
Oh.
I guess Nintendo wasn't really there, but man, they got me hyped for almost everything they said they were gonna do. So I guess Nintendo won.
Nintendo won also because they did something I never expected them to do, which was, granted, we're not going to see it for 5 years, Metroid Prime 4.
Oh my god. We should end it
Wait.
right there. We should
Right
just end
there.
it the same way they did
Look
when
at
they
the
showed the
shit, my
Metroid
answer.
Prime GIF.
Omake!
It's been fun recording with you guys.
I'm Neil.
I'm Lizzie.
Scott, go.
I'm Scott.
Omake! I'm Cookie.
This is the Fancy Ramen Podcast. Join us soon for our episode on Tokyo Godfathers.
Boop doop boop.
Bye.
And we're recording here as well now.
Well, before we start this though,
Sweet.
Sure.
Scott,
Cookie.
I made a Magikarp named Lizzie Swan, and she was a gold Magikarp, and I did a thing for science, and she evolved into a red Gyarados.
No way, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's good to know. I'll have to do that next time I get a gold one. Have you gotten one that's speckled with gold or like flecked with gold? Calico gold?
No, I have not yet.
That's pretty cool. I wonder if you'd get a speckled Gyarados.
I wonder, but yeah, for
I'm gonna
science,
bet not, but I'll try it next time I get one.
that's the
and
only
I-
Calico one I'm missing.
I don't think I have actually raised any. I don't think I've raised any Magikarp that have your name, Cookie, but I've had a lot of failed Neils for whatever reason.
Great.
Neil, you make a terrible fish.
Yeah,
I think
you know
my
what?
Neil Sama did wonderful, actually.
I used to have gills, but I had them surgically removed, so that might be why.
I also had that swim bladder taken out.
Yeah, you're looking good though.